Oh boy, this is going to be a packed one. So, this was a piece of news that went live over the past 24 hours, and a lot of people have been messaging me to get my 2 cents on what I think about this. Proto Man, what are your thoughts on this Kits concept, VF-1S God of Flame, Macross Robotech, Jetfire homage thing, and how is this able to exist and all the craziness in relation to it? Well, I'm going to give my 2 cents and just my take on it and what's going on from a business standpoint, and just to let people understand who aren't familiar with what's going on here, what it is it worth it? What's going on? So, I mean, it's so loaded. So here's the thing, right? Let's start from the beginning here. I'm not going to go through the whole history of it, but just for people that aren't aware, Jetfire, the 1985 Transformer character, his mold, his toy, and everything like that came from another toy company. What a surprise. But it didn't come from the Diaclone and the Microman Takara stuff. It came from Takutoku Toys, which later on would be absorbed into Bandai. And they used that mold to make Jetfire. It was based on a mold from Takutoku Toys, which came from Macross, what was known as Robotech here in America. It was the Valkyrie VF-1S, which was the Roy Fokker design. The Skull Leader, really cool character in Macross. I love Macross, I just want to say off the bat. It is what it was. It was just one of many molds that were used to pad out the 1985 assortment line, and it just had that short history. And then there was obviously some conflicting stuff. We never really got the true story of what really happened, but we have seen through different show Bibles and people that worked on the Transformers show that because around the time that they were doing the 1985 toy line, there was already development for Robotech, Macross, being localized as Robotech by Harmony Gold into the West, and thus they didn't want to use designs that would conflict with what would be on another rival cartoon. And there's all kinds of, he said, she said stories and everything like that. But at the end of the day, pretty much Jetfire was transformed into the character of Skyfire. The design was done differently. Obviously, little design cues still kind of remained and leaked out. And that was that, and that's why we never had a Jetfire reissue of a toy of the original, and why that character never really sported that design. And so we thought. Then we fast forward, to 2013, and there was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, a G.I. Joe Transformers little box set, and they repainted one of the jets that were included in the set, the Sky Striker, into Jetfire colors, but based off of that more Valkyrie-looking kind of color scheme. And Harmony Gold, who has been strong-arming and protecting the Macross license as Robotech here in the West for literally 3.5 decades, sued Hasbro and said, "Hey man, you're using our design and ideas and colors, and because of the boosters that were used and sculpted on there and everything." And they went to court, and we never really found out what really happened in court. They had a settlement, but it ended with prejudice, which means that they worked something out, but Harmony Gold can never sue Hasbro ever again over it. And what was funny, right after that ended, Hasbro went on to then create the following year that Generations Leader Class Jetfire that pretty much was 100% trying to be like the original Jetfire character with the battle mask and everything, and even the alt mode colors and the boosters. So clearly, whatever they worked out, Hasbro's like, hey, we could do whatever we want pretty much outside of 100% blatantly looking like the VF-1S Valkyrie. So that was that. Macross still went on and made millions of VF-1S toys across all kinds of different stuff, whether it be Revoltech or, I could go on and on. There's a million of those designs. Now we come here today, and we have something that's kind of the reverse. Now we have a Robotech licensed product. Keep in mind, I want to emphasize this is licensed. This isn't done directly through Harmony Gold. This is a company called Kits Concept. They licensed the Robotech license from Harmony Gold and then put out this VF-1S in a very specific color scheme. They call it the God of Flames color scheme, with the fast pack armor, which again makes it different from what the actual Roy Fokker VF-1S looked like. So it has the different color scheme, the different armor that's slightly different to make it look like Generation 1 1985 Jetfire, a spitting image of it. All that's missing is an Autobot logo. That's literally all that's missing, and it would be that. Some Macross fans could argue, well, you could say it's kind of homaging the color scheme of Hikaru's VF-1S Skull Eater Valkyrie that had kind of the red deco and everything during the Do You Remember Love Macross movie, which, by the way, go check out that movie. That movie's fantastic. But at the end of the day, if you actually compare them side by side, the red is in different areas. The armored pieces were actually more of a gunmetal blue. Where's that Skull Eater emblem? If it was an homage to that, where's the Skull Eater emblem on it? There's no Skull Eater emblem. This is clearly trying to be the Jetfire color scheme and to target collectors of Transformers that would want to have some kind of Jetfire modern product today that is done in that old school style. So, I understand what's going on here. The sad truth is I feel like they can get away with it because at the end of the day, the mold is going to take precedent over the color scheme. And it's the same reason why Hasbro was able to get away with what they did back in 2013, which was the mold is the mold. And when you do color schemes like that, you could just fall into homage. Oh, it's an homage, because we see it all the time. We see all kinds of different toy lines that do color schemes that are homages to other toy lines. And you could get away with that legally because the mold itself is an original mold created for that company. So what's happening here is, let's be real, this is the VF-1S Macross Valkyrie mold. It's that design. You can't argue that. It's owned by Bandai, and before that, Tokutaku Toys and everything like that. So it's something that you can't argue that, and when they do that color scheme, you can't say like that they have the 100%, Hasbro has the 100% rights to a color scheme on a design that's their own. So unfortunately, Hasbro doesn't have a case here, and neither does Takara, especially Takara. Now, the question then is afterwards, so now no one could get sued over this. We now have something that clearly is an homage 100% to Jetfire. Is this a product that would be interesting to you? So let's go down. First of all, number one, there's only going to be 1,000 of these made, so it's going to be limited run. So that's already going to create FOMO with people. Number two, this thing's going to be about $210 when it's all said and done. You have to do a $110 deposit on this. So there's also that kind of factor too, where this is an untested company, and you're going to have to put up already 50% of it, $100, just to secure one of these. Now, here's the specs, right? It's $200. Let's use that as the foundation. Here's the specs. It's 19 inches tall. That's about 7.4 inches, it's 19 centimeters tall, which makes it about 4.7 inches. To give that perspective with what we have in our collections today, as of this recording, let's talk about Velocitron's Voyagers, like let's say Road Hauler. He's 7 inches. So it's a slightly taller Voyager scale Transformer. And if it's something that you want to fit into your Transformer collection, it doesn't fit as a masterpiece. It's too short. And it kind of doesn't really fit as a Voyager, maybe as a Voyager in your Classics Generations kind of collection. Maybe. But he is going to be kind of skinny. Now, it does have really cool articulation. It is transformable. What's cool about it, what really adds to the value, is it has metal pieces that'll add to that heft and quality, but it also has light-up LEDs on different areas, like the boosters and the legs and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool, and that obviously adds a bit to the value. It has a display stand. I think it looks cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it looks cool. I don't know about the quality of this. Is this high-quality plastic? Is this, but I think that for a $200 item that's in that kind of almost 8-inch height, 7 to 8-inch height, for what it is, it makes sense compared to a lot of other Macross product that I've bought that's in a similar kind of shape, similar kind of style, and had metal pieces and everything like that. That's Sovchikokin kind of route, if you want to get into that. So I could say that I could justify that value. The question is I don't know the quality. I've never heard of this company. I've never handled any of their products. So that's the only thing that I can't, really say. As a Transformer collector, this does intrigue me because I don't think we will ever get a one-for-one Jetfire homage that's done properly from the Hasbro side of things. So we're always going to get something that's just close enough, but still not close enough. And so this is probably about as close as going to get on a legal standpoint. But I mean, it is interesting. It is really interesting. I dig it. I think it looks cool. But there is a lot of baggage and a lot of weird stuff that goes along with this that I could understand people's frustration and or confusion. I mean, again, Harmony Gold historically for years were suing Hasbro over this. They worked something out in 2013, and then that opened up the floodgates to all the Jetfire product that we have today that looks very similar to how it, to the original Valkyrie, as close as it could be. Again, that 2014 release in Generations, that leader class, being very close back then, especially when you look at the Legends version too, which was released in Japan. Talk about, man, skating on thin ice on the Takara side of things. But they clearly worked something out. They clearly did. So, this other side of it too, with this company, clearly they worked something out too. They wouldn't have probably done this if they knew that Hasbro could potentially sue. They probably already had a conversation and a discussion. And at the end of the day, it's about the mold more than it is the deco. Hasbro doesn't own that mold, so they could do whatever they want with the deco. They could make that deco look completely like Optimus Prime, and they won't be able to sue them. I'm reminded there was a company called Tech Deck Dudes, if you remember that back in the day. Those little rubber figures on skateboards and stuff like that. They would do tons of little figures that were homages to different IPs and brands, including Transformers. They did Transformers, they did Ultraman, they did a whole bunch of them. And they're just little, they're little homages. And when you do that with a little parody or homage, but your mold is an original mold that's created by you, there's not much you could really do from a company standpoint to sue. I mean, what's the new one? Hangries was a new one that they did too, with the slime and everything. And they did an Optimus Prime one and Avengers ones. So it kind of unfortunately falls into that. So if you're a Transformer fan and this does interest you, I mean, hey, more power to you. I think it is kind of cool. Again, I'm a Macross fan. I love Do You Remember Love? So I also have a little bit of a bias there where I really love those designs. Now, I'm not a big Robotech fan. I think that stuff that Harmony Gold has done in the past and has strong-armed Robotech as a brand in the West and has prevented us from getting proper Macross stuff imported here has always been a different kind of debate and discussion. But I will say this does look cool. This does look cool. And, having it limited at 1,000 pieces is going to create some kind of FOMO. I just wish I knew the quality of their product before I would justify $200. But it does look cool. I will say this. Let me know what you think, guys. I mean, look, the irony is that people are looking at this as a masterpiece Jetfire. I don't think it is a masterpiece Jetfire. I think it's at best something that could fit in your classic shelves that has an upper crust of tooling and engineering and LED, which normally you wouldn't have in your Voyager or deluxe scale Transformers. So it's in that kind of scale, just not in that same kind of price point and engineering and extras and bells and whistles, combined with the fact that we actually are getting a Skyfire masterpiece at some point. And if you already have the Commander one that came out during Siege, that's also a fairly good toy. So as a Transformer fan, you'd have to really be a hardcore G1 1985 purist to find interest in this. Or if you just really love Macross like me and love Transformers, and the fusion of the two has always been fascinating. Let me know what you think, guys. Interesting conversation otherwise. I'm curious what you guys have to say about this.